Hey guys, V. Rigoni, Max, high performance real estate entrepreneur. So if you like this video, hey, let's get ahead there and let's smash the button, right? All right, subscribe to the channel. What's it cost you? This way you can get an update as when we're putting out a new video. What are we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to be talking about entitlement. To be entitled. That's right. I mean, that seems to be the big deal out there these days. That's what everybody's talking about. If you're a millennial, if you're, a Z generation, they're all hitting you heavy on this entitlement stuff. Okay, like you're the first people who ever got entitlement. Well, maybe you are. I don't know. Let's first get the definition. Let me pull it up here on my phone here. Entitled, believing oneself to be inherently deserving of privilege or special treatment. In other words, kids who feel so entitled and think that the world will revolve around them. Well, I could tell you, it's more than just kids too. But we're not going to go down that rabbit hole of women. We're just going to be talking about kids, okay? We're going to be talking about children. We're going to be talking about people's kids, you. Are you entitled? Do you feel that sense of entitlement? Now, every generation, right? They're the ones every generation thinks they discovered sex. They think they discovered money. They think they discovered truth. They just think they discovered all these things. It's not true. It's all been going on for millennials, just for millenniums. It's been going on for thousands and thousands of years. Now, I can't talk about all that, but what I can talk about is the baby boomers and the X gen, the millennials, the Z gen, and I know there's another one after that, whatever that is. Now, baby boomers, yeah, a little bit entitled, but it was entitlement in the sense of we were the first generation that really grew up with some basic technology, right? A color TV. That was big. Let me tell you, black and white for the first many, many years wasn't until sometime in the late 70s, middle 70s, that color TV really, really was the big thing. Fast food, right? Going out to McDonald's, things of that nature, all came in during the 70s when we were growing up, 60s and 70s when we were growing up. Yes, there was a certain sense of entitlement when it came to the idea of opportunity. Where the big entitlement kind of came in for the baby boomers was this idea that you were now supposed to go to college and your parents were supposed to help pay for it. That's where the big entitlement kind of came in for the baby boomers. Now, can't say that was across the board, but it was a percentage. My father said, hey, you want to go to college? You pay for it yourself. And he wasn't unique. He said to me, when I was 15 years old, when I came back and I said, hey, they got driver's ed. Yeah, they actually had driver's ed back then too. Okay. He said, you want to go? He said, don't bother. I said, what do you mean? I can't get my driver's license? He said, you can't get driver's license. You're not going to have a car to drive. So go get a job, walk to the job. Okay. We lived in the city, save the money to get a car, and then I'll teach you how to drive and you can buy the car. And then make sure you can also pay for your own insurance. Okay. But at least, there was a job to be had in which you could go to work and make enough money to save enough money to buy your first car. So yes, was there some sense of entitlement because the generation before that, his generation, there was no car. Okay. And there wasn't much of a job that you could do that would save the kind of money necessarily to buy a car. So every generation on some level, right? Now, the X generation, they kind of came into play because, they're the children of the oldest baby boomers. That's right. The people born in 46, by 66, 67, 68, they were having kids. That was after the baby boom generation, which ended in 1965. Okay, so anybody born after 1965. Well, the X generation is a much smaller part of the generation. They're kind of that middle generation. All right. Now, yes, did they grow up much more entitled? Absolutely. Because their parents did go to college. Chances are they went to college on the GI Bill, things of that nature. That's how they went to college. But they were much more willing to pay for the X-Gen college education. Plus, the government also allowed a lot more loans by then. See, as a baby boomer, you couldn't borrow money to go to college. There were some Pell Grants. I went back to my father one time. I said, hey, they got this thing where I could fill it out. You could fill it out and you can see whether or not you can get a grant. He said, I'm not signing nothing and I ain't filling anything out. I don't want the government to know anything of what I got going on. That wasn't unusual back then. But by the time they came out with all these student loans and all this stuff, the X generation was able then at a greater percentage go to college. Now, where did the X generation get into trouble though? Well, they got slaughtered in the housing market of 2008 because they were buying their first homes. So they were coming out of college, right? They were out of college. They had big student loan debt. And then all of a sudden then they bought a home. And then 2008 hit and they lost 50% of the value of their home. I ran into a next-gen couple back around 2009, okay, 2010. I know it seems like forever ago. Together, they had $150,000 worth of student loan debt, and their houses were underwater. They each owned a home, all right, that they had bought during the housing craze of 2006, 2005, and they were both underwater on their houses by over $125,000 each. They were sunk. So whatever entitlement that they felt they had, can't say there was much. Now we're coming up to when the millennials are out there. Much more entitled, right? They're the kids of the mainstream baby boomers. Okay? My kids, things of that nature. Now, these guys now are all in their 30s and 40s now, heading into their 40s. Now, life, pretty damn good because the baby boomers all went to college. They went and had bigger jobs, made more money. They would take the vacations, get the kids into private schools wherever they could. You know, they bought their kid a car. They did all these things to make them feel like they just deserved it because the world revolved around them. The baby boomers were really good at teaching their kids that the world revolved around them. Okay? Oh, I know. It's ridiculous, right? I remember when I really thought the world really changed one day. I was picking up my kid from high school. He was about 16 years old at the time. And he's now in his 30s. He's now, 37? So this is a while back. But I knew the world had changed when the car in front of me, the girl walks up to the passenger side. And it's her mother in the car. She's getting out of high school. And she says to her mother, "What the F are you doing here?" Yeah, what the F are you doing here? And I said to myself, geez, the world's a different place. But think of the entitlement that girl had to live under. It isn't just economic entitlement, okay? It was the entitlement of lack of respect, okay? Lack of obligation that allowed her to yell at her mother and say, "What the fuck are you doing here?" That's right. And I said to myself, whoa, this is a different world we're living in. And we've seen what has happened since. This level of entitlement that you guys have grown up with. Now, do I blame you? No. How do you blame? You know, it's like having a dog and you overfeed the dog, right? And then the dog gets fat. You're putting the food there. You got a fat dog. That's on you. It's not on the dog. Now, if you're fat, it might be more on you. I know it's on me. I'm working on it. But when you're feeding kids all of this sense of entitlement, then they grow up thinking that, yes, they deserve it. So when the girl is sitting in a car on the video that I watched the other day, and she's crying, her tears coming out of her eyes, and she says, "I don't understand this. They expect me to go to work in this office building, and it's got fluorescent lights. How do I do this for the rest of my life?" And she's this side of hysterical. What I found interesting, though, is go to most universities, go to most classrooms. They got fluorescent lights. They didn't complain about them then. Let's get somebody else who's paying the freight. You can handle fluorescent lights when they're free, I guess. Okay? When it's free to be there and you want to be there. But when you don't want to be there, then the fluorescent lights become objectionable. Another one, I'm listening to this other girl. She's sitting there saying, I got this, I thought I was going to get a job that was going to pay me $150,000 a year. They only want to pay me $60,000 a year. They said, oh, it said, well, it's experience. You'll get there with experience. And she said, I got experience. I went to college. Think about the entitlement it takes to figure out, to think that just because you went to freaking college, you're entitled to a job for $150,000 a year. That somebody worked 20 years to get to that pay level. And you don't even understand that there's an entry-level value. And you're the freaking entry level. Now, I get it. We're talking about some people that are just not getting it, just out of college. But this is what's going on. We're seeing it right now on campuses, universities, right? All the protests. We're not going to go down the political rabbit hole. Now, the bottom line is, how does that transition into what we're talking about? How to improve your life? Well, because see, if you're entitled on any level, then you just think that the world's supposed to give it to you. We're seeing that. I flew down to San Antonio last week to meet with an investor. So I fly down to San Antonio. Sitting next to me is this woman, Hispanic woman, probably around 40 years old. I said hello. We started talking a little bit. You know, when you fly in first class, people are a lot more. They're easy to deal with. Okay, they're more relaxed. By the way, always try to fly first class. I don't care if it costs you more money. That's something you need to do because it expands your mind. But you pay for the ticket. Now, the bottom line is this. This woman is there. She's flying back to San Antonio. She came just back from New York City. Her firm was being hired or looked at to help out with the immigration, the illegal, let's call it what it is, the illegal immigration problem in New York City. And she said to me, you don't understand how bad it is. These people come across this border. They're not coming from Mexico. They're coming from Guatemala. They're coming from Venezuela. They're coming from Africa. They're coming from China. They literally fly in and then walk across the border. And they're being told that if you get to New York, you get to Chicago, you get to one, they're going to give you a house. They're going to give you a car. They're going to give you a job. These people are coming here under the idea that there's some entitlement that if they show up, they're going to get that. Everything but the dog. You know, picket fence with the dog, 2 kids, wife, spouse, whatever you want to call them. Different kinds of people can have different levels of entitlement. These are illegal immigrants. They still have a sense of entitlement. But it all comes from delusion. Don't be so freaking delusional. Because your parents are not always going to be there. You're the one who's going to have to step up and make something happen, make it different for you. So the faster you can get through this entitlement, and I get it, you were fed this entitlement. This is on your parents. This is on them. My kids are not entitled. They do not feel any sense of entitlement whatsoever. That's why they're as successful as they are, because they were there working, doing for what they got. All right? Were you? Or were you just there because you just got it because you were there? Now that's what I'm saying. All right? You got to get past this sense. See, it's like the golden handcuffs of the corporate suite, and where you're going to get something, you get something just for being there. But you're not going to be able to retire like the golden handcuffs do for the corporate suite. You're still going to have to go out and work, and you're going to have to trade your time for money. And so if you want to break through all of this entitlement, you want to break through all of this that was given to you, and it's nice to have had a great upbringing. I'm not talking, and listen, guys, I'm not talking here about good parents who raised their kids well, took them on a vacation from time to time, took care of their needs. And we're not talking about that. We're talking about overboard. We're talking about, oh, it's not right, then let's get you what you really love. Let's get you what you really like. How about just, live with it? Because you see, the problem you got now is you got to live with everything because they're not there anymore. And it's a whole different world. Now the world feels like as if, it's offending you. The whole world's offensive to people. I mean, I just once saw the movie Napoleon. Now, in that movie, during that period of time he reigned, he killed over 3 million people, died because of him. Right or wrong, they died. Now that's being offensive. Because someone says something you don't like, because someone does something you don't like, you're offended? Get over yourself and get over your mindset of being offended. If you can get over the mindset of being offended, you then can start to achieve. And you can start to achieve financial freedom. You can start to achieve financial independence. You can start to achieve things that will change your life, the life of your children, the legacy. That's what we're talking about here. So think about what I've got to say here. Think about this idea. Where in this spectrum of being entitled do you sit? Now, my feeling is, at some level, we're all entitled because we were born in a time where the world is the least violent it's ever been. That's right, the least violent. Go back to your history classes and see the people who used to die. We're living in a world that is the least offensive. We have the greatest amount of technology, the greatest amount of communication, the greatest amount of comfort. So just the fact that we live in the 21st century means that we're entitled. Not because someone's supposed to pay for everything that you do in your life, that someone's supposed to give you. That's all bullshit. Let's get out there. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. V. Rigoni, Max, high performance real estate entrepreneur. You want to get past this entitlement? Follow follow these videos. Follow me. I'll help you get past the sense of entitlement. Talk to you soon. Let's get out there. And like I said, let's make it happen.